Our greatest successes in life are often found in helping others succeed. Welcome to the Life Masters Podcast, hosted by Tanya Memme. Discover real-life stories from mentors, leaders, experts, and everyday people who devote their lives to helping others succeed. Every episode takes you on a unique journey, an emotional experience, and tells a story never to be forgotten. Tune in to Life Masters with Tanya Memme and start fast-tracking your journey to success today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Masters. I'm Tanya Memme, and this is Dr. Rick Hanson, and I'm very excited. I have never, ever had a clinical psychologist on the show yet. It's very exciting for me. And
be careful what you say, you know. Yeah.
I know, right? You're also a senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center. You're a New York Times bestseller, and your book is called Neurodharma. So I want
Neurodharma, that's the most recent one, actually. It's the one that just came out.
2 books.
Right, it's book number 6, actually.
Wow, okay.
I'm kind of known for, my very first book was called Mother Nurture, about how to take care of mothers over the long haul, body, mind, and relationships. Such an important thing.
Well, and then about, so that's wonderful.
Yeah. And then about 7 years later, I published Buddha's Brain, which kind of the title explains it. How can we understand what's happening inside the brain when people are as really strong and wise, even enlightened? And then how can we reverse engineer and develop more mindfulness, compassion, happiness, resilience, strength inside ourselves? And then I wrote a few others after that. And the most recent book, I'll show you. It just came out. I'm really happy.
Please.
I'm totally geeking out on the cover. It's so pretty.
Oh,
right. And the subtitle, the subtitle explains it: New Science, Ancient Wisdom, and 7 Practices of the Highest Happiness. You know, how do we get from down here up there? And how can we use what we learn up here down here in the trenches every day?
Wow. Okay. So many questions. First of all, Neurodharma. So what is that, if you were to say?
Sounds like a funny word. Dharma.
I like it, though.
Yeah, Dharma is kind of cool. It comes from India. It just means the truth. What is the truth of things? And it speaks to the truth from the inside out. What are we aware of? What are we experiencing? Including the insights and wisdom from the world's great traditions around the world, the wisest, strongest, happiest people who've ever lived. Dharma. Then there's neuro, which is neuro. We can understand ourselves scientifically. Wow, how cool is that? You know, from the outside in. What's going on inside the coconut?
This is brain science too.
Yeah, brain science.
Yeah.
Exactly right. How do we bring together, for me, the coolest brain science and the most profound wisdom, and then apply it in the trenches of everyday life? That's what the book's about. And that to me just seems like such a good thing to do.
Yes.
And useful and interesting to kind of marinate, and just practical brain science, not hard to understand, just cool stuff that's useful, combined with what the mystics and saints and teachers have been saying for the centuries, right? And then bring it together, combine it, and turn it into practical, experiential things we can do every day. So that's what I focus on, and that's what that book's about.
So there's a lot of talk right now about quantum physics. Is that what you're talking about? Quantum physics meets?
Not particularly, although there's a little bit of that, but I'm a methods guy. I'm really practical. I'm a longtime therapist, right? How to help people not be so anxious or depressed or overwhelmed, and also how to help people build up more of a core inside that even when they're kind of rattled, in the core of their being, there's a fundamental sense of contentment and inner peace. Or how do you help yourself keep your heart open even when people are aggravating?
Right? Which is really hard to do that, especially when you feel like you've really hit not what some might call their rock bottom or a really tough time in life. It's really hard to stay open, especially in your heart.
That's right. I mean, for me, exactly right. I think it's cool to develop subtle qualities that are really useful when you're meditating and it's all, it's quiet in the cave or whatever. But where it gets really useful is when someone interrupts you, or you can't make an internet connection, or you're trying to get some work done and your kid keeps coming in and it's like, well, sweetie, no, not now. right? There's a joke in the monastery. Think you're so enlightened? Go home for the holidays.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
So
I mean,
that's to me. Yeah.
how did you become? I mean, I'm always so curious about people like you that are so educated, but you're also very evolved. So how does someone like you gain those skills? Was it from something you experienced in the past? Have you ever spent time in an ashram? Have you gone to India and studied these philosophies? How has this happened for you?
That's a great question. Well, for myself, honestly, when I was a little kid, I just had a strong sense that there was a lot of unnecessary unhappiness.
So
I could
you
see
knew as
that.
a small, you knew when you
Yeah,
were.
and I could see that in you too. A lot of kids know stuff they can't put into words, but they
Yeah.
just feel it. They know it. And I felt sad about it. Like, why are they so unhappy? And, why am I unhappy and what to do about it? That kind of set me on my way. And I was always really interested in what's useful. What could we learn that would help me be like less weird around girls when I was a teenager, or
That's how it
preoccupied with my
starts out, right?
yeah, or with my parents, and then for me there's a range from being not miserable
Yeah.
to being okay to being pretty happy to being transformed and enlightened. I'm still working on the enlightenment part, but to me that's the process. So I just got interested in it, and it seemed to me that three kinds of things were like treasure chests of useful ideas and information. One, psychology, Western psychology. I became a practicing psychotherapist. A lot of good information there. Two, modern brain science. What's going on inside our bodies when we're really unhappy or when we feel really good, right? That's different.
Well, what
And
is going on inside of our bodies? Just
oh
curious.
yeah, I'll tell you in a second. But
Yeah.
third thing was the deepest wisdom of the ages. The deep meditators, the saints, what have they seen? Not philosophy, but actual realization. And what can they come back and tell us, right? So those three together.
Have you interviewed a lot of the ancient philosophers type thing, or did you actually go live with them? Did you study with them?
Yeah. I grew up in California. I'd never studied in Thailand or Asia or India. I have teachers who have. I'm kind of the next wave of teachers in America who themselves have not gone to Asia, but they've learned from people who did.
Yeah.
So that's my generation, more or less.
Nice.
And I guess, when I think about the people like Thich Nhat Hanh or the Dalai Lama, or I have a friend who's a Christian minister who just is really in a zone. I'm like, how do you do that? And then how can I kind of work backwards from you to feel more of that inside me? So I guess what that means is that anyone can do it. Really, we all have an intuition.
Yes.
Tanya, like you have an intuition, right? Of what is, like when you're in the best place you can be. Can I turn the tables on you and ask you?
Go for it.
Okay. What are some of the things that are happening? What are you doing, or where are you, or what's especially happening inside your mind when you're in a really authentically good place?
I would say that I feel an overwhelming sense of peace, and it's almost like safety. I just feel, I feel like nothing can hurt me, and I'm safe.
Yeah. So here's the follow-up question. That to me is the real practical one. What inside your own mind helps you drop into that feeling of safety and peace? What thoughts, what attitudes, what are you doing inside yourself that helps you rest in that sanctuary?
Well, it's very interesting because I draw upon experiences from the past, which may not have been always good, but you learn from the past. And I find that now when I'm in a space of feeling really good, it comes from the, I guess, the belief and always the unknown, not the belief in it, but when something doesn't exist, to still believe that exists. I know it sounds crazy, but it is a little bit of quantum physics-y, but it's. I do believe that you can manifest your future and your destiny, because the future doesn't exist yet, neither does the past. It's right now that exists.
Yeah.
So I find peace in that,
Mm.
and knowing that you have the ability to create your future
Yeah.
if you stay in that mindset. Not
Mm-hmm.
always easy to do, but I have learned through practice that interesting things, really wonderful things can happen
Yeah.
if you just
That's
trust.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
so you're bringing up, in a sense, a kind of body memory of that feeling, of what you
Yes.
know to be true. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. And for me, you just have summarized there a key process where you acquire that body memory in the first place, right? By going through those experiences, and you help it sink in. And then later you tap into it. And then
Very
when you
true.
tap into it, you have another chance to reinforce it in yourself. So it sinks in even a little more deeply. And then you can tap into it a little more readily tomorrow.
Yes,
Right?
the next time, and each
Yeah.
time it kind of helps you get through those tough times, or those not so tough times, and have trust in the moments that you're experiencing right then and there,
Yeah. That's right.
But you mentioned something, and it was in step number 2. You said that there were 3 things. Number 2, you mentioned how there's certain things that go on in someone's body or mind,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're not going through a very good time. I've never heard anybody sum it up like that. I'm so interested. What things have you discovered?
Oh, well, for one, there's just all the information about stress and
Mm-hmm.
stress chemistry, the ways in which here's a wild thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're stressed, just irritated or frazzled, or we feel hurt, maybe somebody's just kind of been mean to us, or
We've all
we feel,
experienced that. Yeah.
yep, totally normal. When that happens, the animal of the body naturally produces stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Cortisol goes up into your brain, crosses the blood-brain barrier, goes into your brain, and in your brain, cortisol does 2 things. It's like a 1-2 punch. It sensitizes a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's a funny word, amygdala. It's like an alarm bell. So now the alarm bell is more sensitive and reactive, okay, due to cortisol. Second, cortisol weakens a nearby part of the brain called the hippocampus. Hippocampus. And that's important because that part of your brain, and these are kind of in the middle, these are ancient parts of the brain that began to develop 250 million years ago, okay? The hippocampus calms down the alarm bell, calms down the amygdala, but cortisol, due to stress and upset and irritation, weakens the hippocampus. This creates a vicious cycle that feeling upset today, irritated, rattled, anxious, hurt, etc., today makes us a little more sensitive, a little more vulnerable to stress and upset tomorrow, which increases the amount of cortisol we experience tomorrow, which makes us even more vulnerable to stress and upset the day after that. That's a thing that's happening in the body that's a negative spiral.
Yeah.
There are things we can do to counteract that. There are things we can do to grow positive spirals. But that's one example of what's going on inside your body
And
when you don't feel good.
And cortisol is a hormone, right?
Yeah, hormone.
Yeah.
It's a chemical basically. But yeah,
And
it's
it
a
does
hormone.
other things. It makes you gain weight. It causes you to age faster, right? If I'm correct.
It might. Cortisol. I didn't know about gaining weight or aging faster.
I've heard
It
that.
might. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. No, I tell
Stress
teenagers,
hormone.
tell teenagers stress will give you pimples because stress is inflammatory. So they
Yeah.
go, oh, I better meditate now. Now they're motivated because they're a teenager, right?
Right. And then you tell any woman over 40 it makes you gain weight, and then they're motivated.
Then they're motivated as well. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That's really great.
I've always known it as the stress hormone that
Yeah.
can cause aging faster and everything that you said too. So it's kind of a big deal when to learn how to manage your stress. And especially right now, this is my Life Masters quarantine series.
Yeah.
And it's because everybody has that extra stress. And what are some of the things that I'm sure that you have so many clients right now that you're speaking to, helping them through this time.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is something that's common right now that you're helping people get through?
I think right now people commonly have a sense of helplessness, and they're overpowered by things that can't change. So it's especially important to focus on little things you can do something about. I'm going to give you a demonstration.
Yes, love it. Love the practical stuff.
I made some coffee earlier.
Cheers.
It's a little too strong, so I'm going to put some water in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as silly as this is some little corner of my life where I can exercise power. I have influence over this. Now, I could waste this experience on my brain, or I could slow it down and go, I made something happen. I'm more like a hammer than a nail right here. I have a sense of agency. I'm not helpless about one thing at least. I can help that sink in. And as silly as that example is, it's actually really powerful. We have many opportunities over the day to make choices and to feel that we actually are able to make a choice and we're not helpless. So that's one way to help people these days. Another is there's certainly a sense of loss. We've lost things these days.
On so many levels.
It's all true.
Than others. Yeah.
Therefore, we need to compensate for that by really helping ourselves to be aware of what we can still be thankful for, what is still working.
So true.
Yeah, because gratitude makes us resilient.
So true.
And it's not about rose-colored glasses. It's not about positive thinking or overlooking stuff.
Yeah.
It's about seeing what's also true. And that's more important today than ever, to focus on what we can be grateful for, what we can be thankful for. So those are two ways to help people.
They're brilliant ways in which you're saying. I remember, at a point where I was really going through a hard time and struggling in my own life. And that was the one thing that I realized. I was suffering from a tremendous amount of loss.
Yeah.
I had lost my career. I lost my marriage. I lost my house. I lost my money. I mean, everything. I was really spiraling down. And the one thing is that, some of the people this is why I started Life Masters, was being grateful. And do you, some people, when they hear that, they might think, well, what do I have to be grateful for when all I feel is a sense of struggle? So, but what you said was really interesting, how you said, be grateful for the things that exist. Like
for what else is true.
Like the bed you're sleeping in, the coffee that we're drinking. If you just start there, right? It's about planting the seeds.
Or the little things like the people who are decent, right?
Yes.
Like you and I don't know each other really well, but clearly I can sense and recognize a basic decency in you, a basic movement, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not flattering you. I see it. I see what's true. So we can recognize those qualities in other people and be grateful for them. We can be grateful for all the people right now in the world, certainly in America, who are trying to help. I think about, Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers said that when he was young and he was upset about things, his mother would tell him, look for the helpers. Look for people who are trying to help. I look around, I see people in the streets trying to make the streets better. I see people delivering groceries. I see people being kind of careful with each other, not to pass along a plague to other people. These are people who are we can also be thankful for, meanwhile. So there's so many things to be thankful for. And the more that the world sucks, the more important it is to recognize what we can still be thankful for.
And also, like you mentioned too, the sense of giving too, especially at a point when you don't think you have anything left to give. And right now there's a lot of people that probably feel that way, but there's a lot of people giving anyways, helping.
Yeah, that's right. And, of course we have to be careful we don't give to exhaustion if we possibly can. But I think about, I've been lucky in my life in many ways, privileged, and still I've had a lot of times in my life that were really horrible, really challenging, really painful, really bad. And in those times, there is that quality of enduring that we get through it. We live through it. We're still here, and we can take comfort, maybe even take pride, healthy pride in that feeling inside us that we can endure, we can keep on going. And, that's something to be thankful for as well and to trust in.
Yeah. When you were going through one of your, or if it was one time or not, but one of your hardest times in your life, because that is sort of what we're talking about here on Life Masters, is like, when you hit your lowest of the low, right? What was that one thing, that one moment, that one day, that thing that you did or thought or someone did for you that kind of started the spiral back up?
Oh, that's great. Different. I think a key element always is something deep down inside that says, I just don't want to feel this way.
Oh, so true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe it takes another person to kind of jumpstart that a little bit, to prime the pump.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of things in wilderness, rock climbing, mountains. And if you start to freeze to death, literally, you could do all the jumping jacks in the world and it will not save your life. You need an external source of heat, something, a hot cup of tea, another person hugging you, something. So sometimes we do need that external jumpstart, but then the turning point always involves, I don't want to feel this way.
So is that what it was for you? There was someone there that
Yeah,
you
different
remember
times
that
I
day.
just did not want to feel this way, and
Yeah.
That goes to that kind of, I'm going to get through this. That getting on your own side is a critical first step. A longtime therapist, I have found actually that many people are not on their own side. They're not for
So
themselves.
true.
They're for others, but they're not really on their own side.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing to develop in the first place. I think
So
there are other things too, where
Mhm.
I think back on a handful of key relationships or moments when I was like a kid where I felt like the other person actually saw me.
Nice.
It wasn't that they were in love with me
Mhm.
but they actually saw me. They saw good in me. And I think the ways that we can give that to other people is really important these days. We can slow it down and recognize that they're basically a good person over there and be actually interested in them. That's
So
such a
true.
gift, to sustain interest in another person for more than 30 seconds in a row.
So true. And it's funny because sometimes those moments come from strangers, people that don't even know,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
Yeah.
And
On a bus, hitchhiking,
you just
yeah.
don't know. And
Yeah.
people can actually see you in all different, because it's happened to me and you're saying it's happened to you in all different walks of life. Sometimes it's a
Yeah.
relative, a friend. Sometimes, like we said, it's a stranger. So
Yeah.
to think about that and do that for someone else
Yeah.
is something so easy to do, yet so few of
Mhm.
us do it on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's right.
Really take that moment and listen and notice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah.
affect the human being when people just, if they were to do that, if I was to go out and really take a moment and notice someone and pay attention and actually comment on it,
Yeah.
what does that do for the person doing it?
Well, there's different things happen. One thing that happens that's kind of, again, a little cool brain science stuff that's
Yeah, I love
useful.
it.
Yeah. We have, inside us, different neural networks. One of them has the name vagus. Vagus, which means wandering in Latin, the vagus nerve complex. It's important because it has two branches, and both branches originate in the brainstem. One branch goes down and it regulates the heart. So you could do this right now. You may know this already, Tanya, but maybe some people don't. If you exhale, as you exhale, your heart rate slows, because a part of the nervous system that handles exhaling is called the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system, and it's naturally calming. It's the balance to the sympathetic branch of the nervous system, which gets engaged when we're fighting or fleeing. Okay? So one branch goes down, fine. It calms us. It brings a sense of calm strength and easing inside. Like when you were talking about that feeling of safety and inner peace, I could just watch your face change. You were calming. You could feel it, right?
Yeah, you
But
can.
what was also interesting, and this goes to the other part of it that's really useful, the second branch of the vagus nerve also starts in the brainstem, and it goes up into our brain, and its little tendrils move into the muscles around the eyes that show how we're really feeling. And it's involved with what's called the social engagement system, this part of us that is very relational. The takeaway point is this: because these two branches are connected, one goes down, one goes up, activity in one ripples into the other. So if you want to become more available for a relationship, take some long exhalations and calm your body down. If you want to calm down your body, start feeling authentic social emotions like compassion, friendliness, kindness, or love. And as you feel those, that will tend to calm your body. Okay, see what I mean? Activity in one
Oh,
branch.
completely. Yeah.
Bingo. And I'm explaining something neurologically that a lot of us have experience with, or kind of intuitively we've learned. But now that we understand it, we can do this more deliberately and skillfully.
Very interesting. The other thing that I find very interesting, which I'm sure you know a lot about, is the fact that we can, I mean, I'm trying to word this properly, but we can rewire our neurosystem to almost not be a different person, but let's say that we've lived 10 years of tragedy or loss or depression or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it true that we can, through thought, through mindset, through actions and all the above, that we can configure our neuro mindset, or not our mindset, but our, you know what I mean? Our neuro brains, our brains inside there.
Yeah, totally right. You're exactly right. Kids learn to, so, I hope it's okay to say
true,
this.
Right?
Oh, totally. I got a chance to meet your child a moment ago. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, it was really sweet. And if you raise kids, like my wife and I have raised 2 to adulthood, 32 and 29. And, kids learn to walk instead of crawl. They learn to talk. They learn, for example, as adults, we learn to be more patient. Like, I'm learning, my wife is learning to be patient with me. I'm learning to be patient with her. We learn. That kind of healing and growing involves changes inside our nervous system. So it's understandable. Yeah. There's a famous saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Yeah. So we can wire happiness and resilience.
Neural pathways. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's funny that it's like it's a 2-step process, but people always forget the second step.
Well, what's that? I'm going to ask.
So, whatever, okay, I'm going to turn the tables on you again, and you don't have a therapist, so I ask questions.
I'm an open book.
All right, so what's one thing you're interested in growing inside yourself these days? What's one thing you're trying to develop more of inside yourself these days? Some quality, some way of being, some emotion, some attitude, some point of view, some motivation, maybe. What's one thing?
Right now, I'm working on reaching out to people that I feel like I may have brushed the wrong way, or like during the times that I was really struggling.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be more, I don't want to say apologetic, but just sort of, I'm trying to reach out to people that I may have not always had the tools to.
Well, that takes courage to do that. Okay. So that would be a thing to grow. Courage. Yeah. And even a kind of inner peace attitude that recognizes that they might have had a piece of the problem too, but still you can focus on your part of the street, clean up your side of the street. All right, great. You're trying to grow this. So let's say to be brave enough to admit fault or try to repair in a relationship, to be brave. So how do we develop that kind of bravery, right? To be brave with other people. I've known a lot of people who were very brave out in the mountains or in business, but they were not brave at all. They were interpersonal cowards. They did not have courage in their intimate relationships, including a lot of very macho men. Interestingly.
I know, yes.
Okay, you've run into a few of them. So let's say whether a man or a woman or beyond those categories, you want to develop this kind of interpersonal courage. It's a 2-step process. Number 1, you have to experience it. You have to get the neurons firing. You have to feel something. So you feel a little courage, or you feel some calm, or you feel the understanding that it's okay to do this. I need to do this. Or you understand, I'm scared, but I can keep on going. It's not going to kill me. It's not going to break me. It's a virtuous thing to do. You're experiencing these things. That's step 1. But the necessary step 2 is you have to help that experience change your brain. Otherwise, it's just a passing experience, but there's no lasting value. How you help it change your brain is to stay with the feeling for a breath or longer. Just keep those neurons firing together. They're going to tend to wire together too. Don't rush on to the next feeling. Savor it.
So you're saying, let's say I'm about to make a phone call to somebody or send an email or text message. Sit in the feeling of bravery and of courage. Before I do anything.
Right. Because it'll help you with that thing you're about to do, also, it will grow the neural pathways of
Yeah.
courage inside you to help it sink
Wow.
in. It's that second step. We have to help it sink in.
And so
If we
how does
don't,
that happen? Like,
Mhm.
because you're feeling something. I mean, I'm a big
Yeah,
believer in that too.
yeah,
Because I always say what you think and what you feel is what you
hmm
live, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, that's right. For better or worse.
for better or worse, but you really create your own. So you're basically explaining how you can create a new
Yeah,
future.
totally.
Um,
Exactly. You totally got it. It's how to take charge of the brain change process from the inside out. And there's a traditional saying, your mind takes its shape from what it repeatedly rests upon. Rested on
mm,
resentments, it's going to take that shape. Rested on a sense of courage and your own worth, and that you're a good person to be brave enough to want to repair. The brain will take that shape over time.
regardless of how the other person reacts.
Yeah,
That's a whole other thing too.
that's a whole
Like,
other thing, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's being
yeah,
able to let that go,
that's right.
regardless. If they don't
Yeah,
reach back and you've just spilt out your heart and they're like,
yeah,
don't want
totally
anything
right. I'll
to
give
do
you
with
an
it.
example. Like, what helps me is, it's weird, but to feel like a tree that's roots are deep in the ground, that's open to the other person. They're like a wind blowing through me, but I'm still here after
No
the
matter
wind
what.
has gone by. Yeah, so you can be both, and that's a body feeling. So time and again, I've tried to help myself have that feeling of being both strong, resilient, and grounded,
Yeah.
while being loving and open together. So I know what that feels like again and again and again. So then increasingly it becomes automatic. It becomes a
Mm,
trait. You move from state to trait. That's the second step.
yeah.
Grow the traits inside. Yeah.
And then it becomes a part of your new personality.
Yeah, this is the new normal. It's natural. Yeah. That's right. How do you actually help it become increasingly natural to just sort of be that way, to be open and receptive, while also being strong and self-confident deep down inside?
Yeah, it's really interesting too, like to see how certain things can affect even the physicality of a being. Like
Yeah.
I look back at some photos of myself when I was going through a really, really hard time, and I look
Mm-hmm.
probably 5 to 6, 7 years older
Mm.
than I
Yeah.
do now, and it's
Interesting.
almost like 7 years later. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting how that happens. So it's very important, like what you're saying, to
Mm.
really take care of yourself because it can affect you physically to the core.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's, Tanya, isn't it weird? Like, people work hard to have a feeling, right?
Yes.
They work hard to have a feeling. They want to feel happy. They want to feel of worth,
Yeah.
right? They want to feel that they look
We have
good. They
purpose.
look
We have
okay.
reason. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We look okay. Yes. That's
Yeah.
another one.
Right.
You look really hard for that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when it happens, it's like we push it away, or we race on past it, or quickly change the channel to something else. It's as if we're preparing a beautiful meal, we're hungry, and then we just look at it, or we bring a tiny little toothpick to take it into ourselves.
Yeah.
It's
Why do we
tragic.
do that? Why do we do that? I do it. I see people doing it.
I think we do it because a little bit, animals in the wild, our
Mm,
ancestors in the Stone Age and Jurassic Park and beyond, were more likely to survive and have children who had children if they were anxious and irritable and addicted to one thing or another on the one hand. So we have that biological legacy somewhat inside ourselves. Also, I think we have a culture like, that makes us feel really uneasy if we start to feel good about ourselves, right? I've known so many
yeah.
people, who, for example, they know they look good, but they're afraid that if they actually recognize that and feel it, they will become lazy and lose their edge. And so there's always this tension of striving, 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 which makes us look bad
Now that's a whole thing.
over time.
I see what you mean, because you mean people that are very fit, like into their physical looks, work
Yeah.
out every day, eat perfect, do this, do that,
Or
do that.
people who are
Very
achievers, like in business, top
in everything.
performers. Yeah,
Right.
it's so hard for us to just let it sink in. But if we don't let it sink in, we get exhausted and it wears
Mhm.
down long-term performance. So it's a counterproductive strategy. The
So how do
best
we find the
strategy,
balance? How do
yeah,
we find the
find the balance.
balance?
Let it sink in while dreaming big dreams.
So what about, what people are going through right now? I mean, right now,
Yeah.
even though it's very difficult, it is the time to dream big dreams and to see,
I,
you know what I mean? To reinvent yourself.
yeah. It's like there's a whole range of experiences, at this time. And I think this time has landed on different people in different ways. Think
Totally.
about the older person
Yeah.
who's home alone. They get the coronavirus and
What do
it
they do?
kills them. And nobody knows, but it was the coronavirus that killed them. So and then their relatives have to deal with that. Or you have your mother, your father is in the hospital. You're not allowed to visit them. I mean, it lands really hard. And for most people, the way this has landed is that it's been inconvenient, right? It's been a hassle. And I think it's important to appreciate that it's okay to be patient and to get through some inconveniences and some hassles for 3, 6, or more months to keep millions of Americans alive, frankly, and people around,
Yeah.
even more people around the world. So we have to put up with the hassle. We need to be patient for a while. I think that's part of
Yeah.
it. And I'm not trying to reduce the way it's landed really hard, but I think for many people it boils down to, I'm not going to have all the money I thought I was going to have, and I'm not going to have some of the conveniences I thought I was going to have, and I just have to get through this. But we will get through this. This scientists and doctors are going to get this under control probably within 2 years, if not sooner. That may seem like a long time, but it's probably a lot sooner. The more we get a handle on it fast now, the less of a problem it's going to be later. So the more we really do a good job now, the
Yeah.
faster we're going to get out of this. People have to understand we've got to do a good job now, then we're going to be done with this sucker. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there's
I think
also
it's helpful to understand this.
100%. And then, I also hear the argument where there's all of that versus the stress, especially most people are in a little apartment. They can't get outside.
Oh,
They
yeah.
can't exercise. They're not getting their
So what
vitamins.
to do? You want to talk about what to do about it?
Yeah. But they're saying that that's going to kill people even more than the virus is in the end. So the stress of it all
No.
for people losing their businesses. And I mean, there's, I know.
Mm.
But yes, what does it do when that is going on?
Well, yeah. So if I could, so it's two things here.
Yeah.
One, if we did nothing, humanity, we have a lot of history with plagues. We understand them. We've lived through them. We've seen them. And we understand that this is a germ. It's invisible. It spreads really quickly.
Yeah.
Most people don't know they have it, and they're spreading it to others. So if one person gives it to 2 people, and then those 2 people give it to 2 more people, we've gone from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64. It's doubling like that. It gets explosive.
Which is what has
And if we
happened.
Yeah, and if that's what happened in the first few months in America, because they let it inside, they didn't do a good job in the very beginning. Now people are doing a better job. But if we didn't do anything, easily a million, this could
Yeah.
easily kill 1% of the population.
Yeah,
Well, you say
right.
1%, well, that's 3 million Americans.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. So let's get real about that. And the consequence of that is so much greater than people being stressed at home, and as difficult as that is. And if we want to open up the economy, we have to do what other smart countries have done. It's not rocket science. South Korea, Iceland, Switzerland, they got a grip, and now they're starting to open up again. America is really slow because we have not yet really gotten a grip.
Yeah.
That's one part of the truth. The other part is when you're home, I'll tell you 2 things that are really helpful to do.
Would love it. Yeah. This is great.
Number 1 is to take a breath and tune into that feeling inside you that you are strong, you are capable, you will get through this. It's a total pain. It could be really horrible, the real issues, but you are a strong person who will survive, who will endure, and to feel it. Not just give yourself a speech, but to feel that sense of strength inside that we have. That's a very powerful thing to do. And when you tune into it, then you don't feel so anxious at what's happening because you feel stronger and, inside yourself. That's really important. A second thing to do that's based in science, there's a phrase for it that's kind of cool. Tend and befriend, right? Tend to others. Women especially, I think, are very naturally inclined in this way. And the research about tend and befriend comes from how women can handle stress effectively, often more effectively than men, frankly, who move into fight flight with all the consequences. Yeah, tend and befriend. So this is a really important time to, like your program is wonderful, to make connections with others, right? Yeah. To befriend others, to feel that, and to focus on the common good. We cannot get through this alone. If people start acting highly individualistically, that will kill a lot of Americans and other people around the world. And we're talking about the people who will die are in many ways most precious to us. They are our grandparents, our parents, our aunts and uncles, our school teachers who are now retired and are in their 70s and 80s. And, so we need to protect them. That's the mark of a truly human society. We protect the people that are most vulnerable, including those with various health conditions. So those are my two suggestions. Tune into calm strength, the feeling in it inside yourself. That'll lower your stress and it'll make you more effective. It won't solve everything. We still have problems, but we'll be more capable. And second, tend and befriend and receive also the caring of others.
Yeah, it's very, I love all of that, because the other thing too, don't you think, is that, and I don't mean this in like a good way, but we are lucky that we're going through this with other people, because going through something like this where you've lost your job, you've lost a family member, you're in these unforeseen circumstances in your own life, it's really stressful when you're the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea of, like you said, there's helpers out there. So reach out, expand your community, connect with others. There are many people out there that have lost their business.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, reach out to others that are going through the same thing.
Totally
right now, there's someone who can relate to almost anything you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And can help.
I find for myself that the first step is to feel what you're feeling. There's no replacing that step.
We don't know.
Well, you don't want to feel it. I know I didn't want to feel it, but there's too bad. You got to feel your feel. You have to start there. Now, it might be overwhelming. So you just empty the bucket of tears. In my own case, one spoonful at a time. You just feel it, then you move away, then you come back to it. But we have to experience and then bring compassion to ourselves. It is hard. Self-compassion makes us stronger, doesn't make us weaker. It's not about wallowing in self-pity. It's about recognizing, oh, wow, this sucks. And it's landed hard, and I don't know what to do, and it hurts. Oh, I wish I was not suffering. Much as we could have compassion for another person, we can have compassion for ourselves. Also, then find that muscular place that says, all right, I would start swearing here, but I'm not going to. Just say, heck with that. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then make a plan as best you can, which hopefully includes stay safe today, live to see the sunrise, and then tomorrow you'll have another chance, right? So those right there, feel the feelings, self-compassion, and then find that muscular feeling of being on your own side. What am I going to do? And then make a plan. Those for me they're like first aid. They're absolutely fundamental. And then look for those things that are resources for you. Where do you draw wisdom? Where do you draw comfort? Where do you draw strength? From your teachers, from programs like yours, books, music. I draw strength from the example of people in history who've had much harder times than I've had and still got through it. I draw strength there. I think about, the fact that people love me. Some people do, at least, even if I irritate them sometimes. I can draw strength from that, right?
Yeah. And
simple pleasures, cup of coffee,
Yes, simple pleasures. Oh my goodness. I couldn't agree more. But a lot of it is too surrounding yourself with people that really bring you up, and recognizing the people that bring you down, and to
That's right.
really not allow them in your life anymore. You can't. You need to save your own energy and your own positivity and gratefulness and all those other emotions we were talking about.
Yeah.
You don't have time for that.
I think that's really right. When everything's fine, I think about, if it's like you're jogging on the ocean,
Yeah.
you're at sea level, everything's fine, the sun is shining, people are smiling. You can afford to have a 10-pound rock in your backpack jogging along, all right? But
And you don't
when
even
things
feel
it. Yeah, everything's groovy. When things fall apart, though, when a hurricane comes, like we saw this hurricane coming, the scientists and the national security experts in America saw this hurricane coming years ago, and they started really warning the current hurricane in early January. Hurricane's coming. It's really predictable. It's still sunny. It's offshore, but we can see its course. We don't know the exact detail, but we know it's a big one, and it's coming our way, and it will be landing here. Those warnings were ignored. Unfortunately, finally, wake-up call April, the real wake-up call began to occur, and here we are today. So,
yeah,
take that into account, obviously. But meanwhile, wow, there's so many ways we can feel good. We can help ourselves.
so many ways. And not just during this, it's whenever you're in a situation where you feel lost or alone, or you're suffering from a loss or anything like that, where you feel like you've kind of hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Your current book, what is your favorite chapter in that book?
Oh, it's funny you ask. I'm going to show you the cover if I could.
Let's see it again. I love that.
Oh, I knew I was making a point a moment ago, and I just kind of lost it in my, my metaphor. Here's my point, just what you said earlier. When we're jogging along at sea level, we can afford to have 10-pound brick in our backpack.
Yeah.
But when the storm comes, and I think the wake-up call for a lot of people is that we really need to drop needless baggage and focus on what is most enduring and most reliable and most feeds us. So to me, that's the big takeaway. Can I read you the first paragraph of the book?
Yes.
Because it really speaks to it.
And this is your 6th book. I just want to reiterate that again. Amazing.
I know, who knew, right?
You're like, you're used to it now. My dream is to be an author one day, so.
I'll stick with it. Well, okay, I'm going to turn the tables on you again. Can you write 2 pages?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2 pages. 2 pages are 500 words, basically. Can you write 500 words, 2 pages? Well, do that 100 times and you have a book. That's the first draft of your book.
Nice. Nice.
That's right. Can you write 500 words? Well, do that 100 times and that's a book. At least that's the first draft of it. So hang in there. Really hang in there.
I am. I've already sort of started it, but it's it's a work in progress. I'm gonna get it there. But so you want to read the beginning, or what is the most? What chapter do you just love the most? You just cannot believe I wrote this. It's amazing.
So, well, you're really kind. For me, what the book's about is when times are hardest, we need to learn from people who are the strongest, who are the most independent, the wisest, the most stably loving. When everything's falling apart, they're calm and clear. We can learn from them. So what the book's about is what can we learn from the great teachers, the great sages, the great saints, including what possibly, reasonably, could be going on inside their brains that enables them to be that way. And then how can we get that going inside our own brains as well? So I'll read you the beginning here. I've hiked a lot in the mountains, and sometimes a friend farther up the trail has turned and looked back and encouraged me onward. Such a friendly gesture. Come join me. Watch out for the slippery ice. You can do it. I've often thought about those moments while writing this book, which is about the heights of human potential, about being as wise and strong, happy and loving as any person can ever be. If those heights are like a great mountain, awakening is the magnificent journey that carries you along toward the top. Many real people have gone very far up. The great sages and teachers throughout history, as well as others no one has heard about, and I imagine them turning with a sweet smile and beckoning us to come join them.
Wow. How on earth do you come up with just that? I mean, it's written so eloquently,
Oh, thank you.
but there's a lot of meaning in that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you right from the heart. Um, that's really important. Keep in mind a being who's reading this, you're speaking with. It's a conversation, and you're holding them with you, and you're taking them with you as you go along. It goes back to something you said really early on, the great gift of truly listening to another person so they feel felt, you know. So that's a really beautiful thing. So as a writer, we want to have a feeling of the reader, right? And to respect them and answer their questions naturally that are occurring, or what do you want to say to them? I knew that in this book, which is about some very profound things, that I really wanted to have a welcoming, encouraging quality in it, a friendly quality that I have felt from people that have been my friends, who've helped me along the way in different ways, including in the path of wisdom and awakening. So I wanted to, bring that spirit along with them.
No, I love that. I mean, you do have a friendly demeanor naturally, anyways, I find. Yeah, you definitely do. And I'm very excited to read your books, but should I start at book number 1 and then read to number 6?
No, just go to Neurodharma. No, really, you can do it. And people can learn more about my stuff on my website. I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes. It's Rick Hanson, my name, .net. A lot of freely offered stuff. And a lot of it is really bite-sized. I'm a big believer. I mean, I think there's a place for deep practice. Like clearly you have background and you've done things that are very deep. You really have sunk in deeply. Yeah. That's powerful. And also, I'm really interested in bite-sized practice. One exhalation. Slowing the heart rate, releasing tension. That's right. One inhalation where we go, oh, it feels good with Tanya. Oh, this feels good. It's okay. It's all right. Calming, settling. Those little nuggets really help us too along the way.
And take that time too to create those nuggets, to have those nuggets as well. Because a lot of us just run around this, that. We don't even take the time to meditate, if that's what you want to call it, or use the tools.
Yeah, or one little thing. Like one thing that's happened for me and along the way is I've helped myself appreciate little things, like water. Like I poured water into my cup, and I'll do it again because I need a little more. And you just go, oh, water, ready? And you just see water. Like, look at that. Is that pretty or what? Water.
Beautiful.
And again, it seems so silly or stupid.
No, you can't live without it. So
just the prettiness of water. Like, wow, water. And that moment right there is an opportunity to experience a little bit of delight and to get out of your own head and your own and go, wow, water. And even just to appreciate that. Like I was in India, as a tourist a couple of years ago, and the access that the majority of people in the world, not everyone, but certainly living in developed countries, you have access to water, fresh water, usually. You just they don't. Many people around the world, I think roughly a billion, maybe about 1 billion people around the world do not have access to regular sanitation. They don't have toilets. They don't have anything.
And it's something that
we take so much for granted.
It's so true.
Every time you flush the toilet, are you grateful?
Right.
It could be considered that stops working. Pretty grateful.
I know. It's my father's on the board of a nonprofit called Wells of Hope, and often I've gone to Guatemala with him about 5 or 6 times. And what we do is we bring these huge well rigs up into these remote mountains of Jalapa, and we help dig and bring water to these remote communities. And it's a lot of work. And I'm not the one actually, I help, but I'm definitely not doing the physical work. I'm cooking and for the men that are doing it. But when you see these people in these communities that literally they get their water from the side of the road in puddles, brown, awful.
Disease, what a burden.
Bugs in it, bubbling, frothing, awful water. Yeah. And when you see them, because they'll see my dad in his truck, they all know him there, and they come out and they're just, you really start to see that not everybody has this.
Yeah, that's right.
To be thankful.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, well, I can't wait to read your book.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes,
Thank you very much for
yes.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. This was absolutely wonderful. I'm going to definitely have to air this during quarantine, which will be good because you really give some wonderful bits of advice and golden nuggets of information. So I want to thank
my
you.
pleasure, Tanya.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you take good care. Blessings to you. And
yes.
People should check out my website, rickhanson.net. And there's tons of resources there. Most of it's free. Small and a lot of it nuggets, really useful, practical things you can do.
Yeah.
And
read his 6 books. I'm going to start. But I like that they're also different too. And
that's good. That's really
good.
Good.
So it's mainly all on your website then. It's not so much.
Yeah, just go to my website, rickhanson.net. You'll just see all kinds of good stuff there, including free newsletters. And I'm very respectful of people's email addresses. They make it easy to unsubscribe if you want. And, as we help ourselves, we help other people. Right?
Yes.
And we bring them along with us. Up the trail.
Up the trail. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
This was wonderful.
You take good care. I'm hiccuping. I better drink more coffee.
Yes, exactly.
You take care.
Too. All right. Bye,
good.
everyone. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening to Life Masters. We'll see you next time.
You have just listened to another inspiring episode of Life Masters with Tanya Memme. To access the show notes for this episode or to listen to more shows, simply visit www.tanyamemme.com. Master your own life and be inspired to help others to succeed. Join us again next time here on Life Masters.